Hello, coaches! Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. This episode highlights how school leaders can build a growth mindset among teachers. I'm chatting with Tim Lauer, Director of Digital Learning and EdTech for Evergreen School District in Vancouver, Washington. Tim shares how his experience as a classroom teacher, building principal, and now district-level administrator has helped him build a culture of learning, valuing the process of sharing via social media in our work as professionals. Listen to the full episode to hear more about the power and purpose of sharing and connecting, both as a teacher and with your students on social media. If you enjoy any part of this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more conversations like this, please subscribe to our channel and click the notifications bell to find out every time we release a new episode. Remember, you can also listen to the full Coach Better episode wherever you get your podcasts. We are passionate about the impact coaching can have on student learning, school culture, and teacher professional growth, and we want to help you coach better. We've got some great opportunities for more learning after today's conversation, so stick around all the way to the end. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better. Today, I am really excited to be chatting with Tim Lauer. Welcome, Tim.
Well,
Tim, can you start us off and tell us a little bit about your education experience?
Sure. Currently, I serve as the director of what they call digital learning, what I think most folks would call educational technology, for Evergreen School District in Vancouver, Washington. Previous to that, I was a building principal for 13 years in Portland Public Schools at Lewis Elementary School. And my previous work was as a teacher on special assignment, curriculum specialist kind of work, classroom teacher, taught kindergarten for 16 years. And one of the aspects of my career that's I find kind of interesting is that I was teaching in the early 90s when the public internet was just coming into being. And it was interesting to just see that transition of being able to access resources, but also being able to look at the internet as a place that you can share the work of your students and such. And just to see how that's progressed over time and just how much easier that's become is pretty interesting.
I was interested in the section you were talking about during observations as a principal. You wanted to help teachers understand that questioning wasn't a gotcha. It was to help the teacher to keep growing and iterating. How did you build that culture of questioning and professional growth and growth mindset in your staff as a building principal? And then how do you take that on as a larger scale school leader?
I think, one of my methods, and I'm sure most principals do this, is you try to just be in classrooms continually, right? And if I'm walking down to the far end of the building, I might stop in 2 or 3 classrooms for 5 to 10 minutes, depending on what was going on that day. And I was very fortunate to be at Lewis Elementary for 13 years. And so over time, you knew that I would come in, and I think just over time they realized, okay, he's not here to do the gotcha. He's not here to this. He's just kind of interested in what's going on with kids and talking to them about what are they learning, what are they seeing, that type of thing. And so I think over time, when I came in, there was less stress about, he's going to leave me this detailed checklist when he leaves, that kind of thing. Because I do that on formal observations and such, but not for the day-to-day visits and such. But again, it just allowed me an opportunity to have a much better understanding of what was going on in those classrooms. And then to have, since I try to be in classrooms on a daily basis, I could see something happening in Mark's classroom and say, and Lynn did this thing last week. You might want to talk to her about that. And again, it's more of a conversation about the work and not so much an observation and evaluation, even though that is a process of our work and we have to do that. And it's a good process for reflection. I tried to make my visits to be not judgmental, but more informative for me, so I can then share that knowledge that they're doing. And, Twitter was interesting in terms of, as I go into the classrooms and see interesting work, I would tweet it out. And then I encouraged other staff members to be on Twitter also. Not so much that they say, well, I only have 30 followers or I only have 40 followers. I said, well, it's not about followers. It's about documenting your work. And then also, of those 30 followers, 15 of those could be parents of your children in your classroom. And so you've got a very engaged audience. It's like in advertising, right? You want to get the right people to look at your ad. Well, those are the right people to look at your tweets and such. But when I would share stuff, it gave talking points to teachers. So they'd walk down the hall. I might have been in Mark Hansen's classroom, and the kids were doing something with robotics or something, and I tweeted out. And then maybe at lunch or maybe after school, one of the other teachers had seen that tweet, and it then has this opening, this talking point to go talk to Mark about the work because she might have a question.
I love 2 points that you raised that I really resonate with me. The one is the being visible and being there. And I think that is, all school leaders talk about the importance of it, but it's something that can very easily fall by the wayside because your jobs are so busy. So making that a priority, I think, is so important. And then the idea that you're making the learning that's happening in different classrooms visible so that teachers can talk to each other about what's going on, like that really creates a culture of growth mindset, a culture of interest, and a culture of sharing that I think helps teachers feel like that iteration is okay, right? Because you saw a snapshot of what happened in so-and-so's class, and then your class was the snapshot, and you can talk to each other about all those great things that are happening. How do you scale that up to a whole district, that culture of sharing and connecting and feeling supported?
It's interesting. I think in my particular case with my particular team, that's one thing that I've made a point of really encourage them to actively engage in Twitter and to also to do that sharing. So they're out in buildings working on a daily basis. Part of it is, I want people to see the work you're doing, because if we're really not sharing it and putting it out there, there might be folks out there that assume that the work isn't happening. So if you're in that role of being like a district support person or like a teacher on special assignment who works in multiple buildings and such, it's a great way to demonstrate the work that's taking place in the buildings you're helping to support. And so that's one thing I've encouraged my team to do, and and I think that they've received feedback from various people that's kind of reinforced that with them, and they're seeing the benefit of that. And then it's interesting, our communications department in our district has all of a sudden discovered that my TOSAs have Twitter feeds, and it's like, we're generating all their story ideas for these public service types of things based on the fact that they're seeing what's happening in particular buildings that the TOSAs have highlighted.
That's an interesting angle, and I've lately been talking to more and more school leaders with also their communications teams in the same room, and it is so interesting because I'm sure that you guys talk to each other all the time, but then when you put the technology focus on, it's like, oh, like the work that principals and school leaders and teachers are doing every day can help the communications team do what they need to do, and it's so authentic and it's such a real connection, and it's not really about, of course, there's elements of the communications team that have to be marketing the perfect front of the school, but then there's these elements of like just what's happening, and we can help you do that and make our school feel more inclusive, not only to our current school community, but to our potential school community. I think that's really cool. That wraps up today's episode of Coach Better Spotlight. If you want to catch the rest of the recording, find it wherever you get your podcasts under the name Coach Better. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our channel and catch us on social media at Eduro Learning or follow the hashtag Coach Better. As promised, here is our exciting new professional learning opportunity that we're super pumped to be bringing straight to you. Time to talk is crucial for today's modern educator. We know that so many of you are juggling a lot because your students, your peers, and your stakeholders mean so much to you. We know that sometimes this means making it to a conference or a weekend workshop is not always your best option. And we know that even when you do make it to that conference, you may not have been able to dig as deeply into a topic as you wanted to. You might have been left with unfinished conversations. Your students, peers, and stakeholders deserve professional development that recognizes the challenges of a modern educator. Eduro gets it. We are responding to change in our professional world, and we build the professional development that we want to be part of personally. This year, Eduro wants to harvest your willingness to always learn more, your eagerness to do dialogue diligently. That's why this year we are proud to invite your voice to a brand new type of learning, Mastermind Ed. We know that groupthink is the enemy of creativity. That's why Mastermind Ed focuses on harnessing diversity of thought and context. We know that sometimes best practice is simply the result of not having new practice as part of the conversation. That's why Mastermind Ed focuses on making time for provocative perspectives. And we know that professional development that isn't tailored to you just shouldn't be called professional development. That's why Mastermind Ed prides itself on paving pathways with you. Who is Mastermind Ed for? If you have a role in school or education, this is for you. Whether the topic is brand new or you consider yourself an expert, Mastermind Ed will stretch your thinking and help you clarify key questions. By joining a Mastermind Ed, you will bring back actionable ideas to your school, and you will have a network of educators to think with. So get ready for an online learning environment that values you, your time, and your school. Join us for Mastermind Ed, an opportunity that sparks, sustains, and supplements your inspiration. Early bird registration starts October 7th, 2019, and Mastermind Ed groups start January 13th, 2020. Find out more at edurolearning.com.